So you have to pay attention to each state's gun laws. So you could have a handgun in your jacket, concealed, and be perfectly legal. And then step over a state line, take one step, and you're committing a felony. So you got to pay specific attention to where you are and what you're doing when it comes to gun laws in the United States. I'm Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you are watching Lawyer Up. Today, we're going to be talking about gun laws in the United States, and these vary tremendously depending upon where you are and what type of a gun you might have. So we're going to be talking about the questions that you guys need to be asking yourself so that you can stay in compliance with federal, state, and local laws where you're located. Remember to hit that like button, comment below if you got something to say, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share me on social media. We have merch at bossindustries.co. If you want to support the channel, all the money goes right back into improving the station. And remember today, I am a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. If you need legal advice specific to gun laws in your area, then you need to lawyer up.
All right, you ready to get into some questions?
Let's get it going.
All right, so I've got a whole bunch of questions here. And the first one I have is, are gun laws complicated?
Well, of course they are. Yep,
Yeah.
They are. And what makes them complicated is you have federal law. So it's the law of the land in all 50 states. There's federal laws that apply, but then each state has its own state laws. So states vary from state to state, and some are more restrictive, some are less restrictive. And then inside of a state, cities can have even more restrictive gun laws.
It's complicated.
So, yeah, if you're in Chicago, you've got to deal with the federal gun laws, the state of Illinois' gun laws, and then the very restrictive gun laws that apply to the city of Chicago. So,
Wow.
Today, we're just going to be talking about, I live in Missouri, so I am familiar with Missouri's gun laws. And Missouri is a fairly representative state. But if you guys are wanting to know about the gun laws specific to your state, there's a website called Guns to Carry. It's GUNSTOCARRY.com. And they have a summary of every state's gun laws. So you can go there and see how these questions would be answered in your state or your neck of the woods.
All right, yeah, that'd be pretty helpful. Sounds really complicated. So I would need a place to, like if I were to conceal and carry here in Missouri, and then I would go to, let's say I went to Kansas to visit Dylan or someone.
Right. Yep.
I would have to, I don't know the laws. I know the laws here. I don't know the laws there. So I guess that's the website I'd go to. Gunstocarry.com. That's where I would go to figure out if it's what I need to get done over there.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this because like in Missouri, you can, it's called constitutional carry. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but you don't need a permit to conceal and carry in Missouri now. The laws have changed. However, if you step across the line, say into Illinois, they don't have that. You have to have a permit. So you're perfectly legal here. You take one step and you're committing a felony.
That's crazy.
You're unlawfully using a weapon, which could land you in,
I never would have thought
prison
about
just by walking one step.
That's insane. I never would have thought about it. I'd be like, well, if it's okay here, then what's the big deal if I go that way?
Right. So
I don't know.
It's complicated, that's for sure.
So this is a good question, especially for me, who's in kind of the weird 18 to 21 age at 19 years old. Are there age restrictions to owning a gun?
There are, and it varies, like I said, from state to state. But there are age restrictions when it comes to your ability to purchase a weapon. And sometimes often different age restrictions on the ability to even possess or use a weapon. So it's different. One of them is just, can I have it? And the other one is, can I go to a store and buy it?
Yeah.
And you found that out yourself when you know that you can possess a handgun, but you can't go to the store and buy one,
Which I think is so strange.
You can't even buy ammunition for it.
So that's so weird.
And most states they'll have a difference between what they call short guns and long guns. And of course, your long guns are your rifles and your shotguns, more of your sport or your hunting weapons. And then you've got your short guns, which those are your handguns that you use for self-defense and or people like to use those when they commit crimes.
Yeah.
So there's usually more restrictions on your short guns. Because in Missouri, there's no age restriction on possession of a long gun. You can take an 8-year-old out and they can own a shotgun, or
really,
and that may not be a good idea.
No, well,
but you can take them out and you could take your kids hunting and they can own or possess or use
I didn't know they could own
a rifle.
gun. That's
Now,
crazy.
if you take them hunting, they have to do a hunter safety course and those types of things. But there really isn't a specific gun restriction when it comes to young people and long guns. Now, they got to be 18 to purchase one. So, an 8-year-old can't go into Walmart and buy a shotgun. But so there are restrictions on purchasing, and same with ammunition. But when it comes to use with long guns, they're not restricted like short guns are. Now, when you're talking about handguns, you got to be 18 to even possess one. Now, there's exceptions. I mean, you handled one prior to being 18, and there's exceptions for hunting, farming, target shooting. That's what we did, and gun safety instruction. So otherwise, if just you by yourself out and about, you got to be 18 to possess one, and you got to be 21 to purchase one and to purchase ammunition for one in Missouri. And you found that out when you were like, well, I can own a gun, I can own a 9mm, but you just can't walk in anywhere and buy one, because you're not 21.
So is it illegal to, let's say, an 8-year-old doesn't own the short gun? So let's say I give an 8-year-old, let's say I give Holland a little sister who is 14. If I give her a pistol, like not give it to her, but let her hold it and shoot it, is that technically illegal even though she doesn't own it?
Well, she could. That's a good question. So you're supposed to be 18 to handle it.
You kind of just explained it, but I didn't know if it was written on paper, or it's like, because you said before I was 18, I shot a gun.
Right.
And I don't think anybody's going to come take me away for that. That's kind of what I'm asking, if that's on paper.
Yeah, well, it's the law, but there's an exception to it. You got to be 18. Yeah. So you got to be 18, except there are exceptions. And if you're hunting, target shooting,
that's right. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Gun safety
instructions. So
I just wanted to clarify.
There's also, and we'll talk about this in a minute, there's a prohibition against you giving a gun to somebody who's not legally able to possess one. There are other disqualifying factors other than age that we'll talk about here in a minute. So if you know somebody's not supposed to have one and you give that person a gun, that's actually a crime that you're committing.
I feel like it should be.
So anyway, there's age restrictions like that apply to guns, and rightfully so. But again, it's different state to state. 18 and 21 though, that's fairly common in the ages that we're talking about.
So you talked about giving someone a gun who's not supposed to have one. Well, how do you know that? Is there background checks required? If you go to Walmart or Academy, you got to have a background check to get a gun?
So, the answer is yes and no in Missouri. So if you are buying a gun from a licensed gun dealer, and that's a commercial entity like a gun,
like a Walmart,
a gun store, Bass Pro, a pawn shop, or anybody who sells guns routinely. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Like as their business? Yeah. So if it's their business to sell guns, then you have to fill out, it's called ATF Form 4473. It's a firearms transaction report. You got to fill that out. And we'll talk about what's on that here in a minute. But you also have to pass a national instant background check to be able to purchase a firearm from a licensed dealer or a gun shop. In that instance, you do have to go through and pass a background check. Now, if you're buying a gun from an individual, then you're not required to have a background check in Missouri. So if you're buying a gun from me, now I couldn't sell you a handgun because you're not old enough yet, but once you're 21,
you could sell me a shotgun.
If I could sell you a shotgun, that's right.
But what if I am not supposed to have it, but you don't know that because you're not required to run a background check on me?
And that's the kind of the one of the differences in the laws is they don't put the responsibility on an average individual citizen to conduct a background check on somebody else. So it's not my responsibility to run a background check on you.
So it wouldn't be your legal obligation. You wouldn't get in any trouble.
Right. If I know in advance.
Unless it's obvious. It's like, hey, I still got my orange jumpsuit on and I'm all sweaty.
There you go. Yeah.
Probably shouldn't sell me a gun.
I just broke out of a mental institution and I need a gun. Oh, all right. I'll sell you one.
Yeah.
So,
can't do that.
Yeah. So anyway, So if a private individual to a private individual, no background check is required. But as we mentioned, if you know that individual is not supposed to have or possess a firearm, then it's a crime to sell it to him. So if I represent somebody on a felony case and they're convicted of a felony, and I know that they're a felon, they can't possess a firearm, then I can't just sell it to them because I'm committing a crime then. Even though I don't have to actually conduct a background check, I know that they're not entitled to possess a firearm. So, so the answer to the background check question is yes, if you're buying from a licensed gun dealer, and no, if you're buying from a private individual in Missouri.
What are some of the things that would prohibit someone from being able to have a gun, like purchase a gun?
Okay, and that's what we were talking about before. So when you purchase a gun from a gun dealer, they have that's a federal firearms license. That's what it's called. And they are required to have you as the purchaser fill out that ATF form 4473. And there are certain things on there that you have to check a box as them not applying to you. And one of them, we talked about that you're not a convicted felon. And a felony is any crime that is punishable by prison in excess of a year. So these are your serious crimes. So you have to check off a box. I'm not a convicted felon. And you also have to go down and say, I'm not convicted of a misdemeanor of domestic abuse. So most misdemeanors don't disqualify you. But if it's one of domestic, if it's a violent one, if it's one of domestic abuse, then that type of misdemeanor would disqualify you from being able to own a firearm. You've got to check a box that says that you are not a fugitive from justice, which simply means there's no warrants out for your arrest.
Fugitive justice. That's kind of a cool title.
Yeah, it is. Fugitive from justice. Oh, I'm not that. That sounds bad. You have to attest that you are. It is nice. You have to attest that you are not unlawfully, or that you do not unlawfully use illegal drugs, and you're not addicted to any controlled substances. And of course, there's no way of verifying that.
I was going to say that would be pretty easy to lie about.
You just check a box. There's no way of really verifying that.
How do they do it require that ATF require like a social security? Like, how do they get all this information on you?
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got to fill out the top part of it, your name, your address, your social security number, all that information goes in there. So this is just the disqualifying events, but the whole form, and it's only a couple of pages, but it does have all your identifiers. So they know exactly who they're dealing with.
So there's like a system, you're in a system. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like cops can just look you up, and you're in the system.
Yeah. And that's the national instant background check that they run on you. So they're putting this information in there and checking.
Do they do that on the spot?
Yeah. I mean,
oh really?
I bought a gun in the past 30 days, and I had to fill this form out and purchase the gun. I thought it was like they ran it right there. It took me 15 minutes from start to finish to buy the gun. So they did everything.
I don't know why, but I thought it was like applying for a loan. Like you have to wait.
It's going to be 30 days. Now, some states, Missouri doesn't have, some states have waiting periods. Like, why do you need this gun right this second? It's like, well, because he's about to leave and I need the gun. So they have like 3 to 5 day waiting periods in some states.
I mean, I see where they're coming from. It's kind of, it's kind of annoying, but I do see where that's kind of a good idea. I can see why they would have that rule.
Usually it applies to handguns and not shotguns.
If I was buying a gun, I'd be like, oh, come on. But if, the next guy is like, yeah, give that guy some time.
Yeah.
Let him cool down.
If you're super pissed, you're not going in usually buying a shotgun.
Yeah.
You're give me a handgun right now. So usually those waiting periods in the states that have them, they're for handguns only. But
I do, after this show, I got to tell you, I watched this hilarious firearm. It was literally called Gun Laws, Dave Chappelle bit, where a guy walked and he just booked it to Kmart and bought a shotgun. He was all sweaty, and it was something. There was
Dave Chappelle, it's fun.
It was hilarious. The guy on the counter gave him a box with a duck on it and a box with a deer on it, and he said, "This won't kill a man." The duck one. It's like it'll pepper him. It's a hilarious bit. But basically, the guy that's selling him the gun, long story short, knew when he was like, "You're gonna try to kill a man, aren't you? This isn't gonna do it."
Okay.
It was a really funny bit.
I'll check that out. You
want a buckshot?
That's funny. I suspect. And when I was buying a gun, there was a weirdo in there looking at guns and seeing if they fit in various pockets that he had. I was like, oh, that guy's creepy.
I sold remember those fanny packs that I used to have? But they weren't fanny packs. They would hold like guns.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I went to a local pawn shop and sold one to a guy who wanted to meet there because he was putting different guns in it to see if it would fit. Which, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It was a I think the guy was like military, like he was a sharp
Yeah.
guy. He wasn't a weirdo, but
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe he had a legitimate purpose for that.
yeah,
So-
that my guy did. Your guys sound like
He was
didn't.
just seemed like he was a little out there. And,
Yeah.
and in fact, that's one of the disqualifying factors, that you're not adjudged mentally incompetent. So you're not under a guardianship or anything like
Mm.
that.
So okay, I have another question before, because I'm gonna forget this one. This is
Yeah.
just so if that guy walks in there and the guy behind the counter is like, dude, this guy's weird. Can he? Is there any like? Can he just say, no, I'm not gonna sell you a gun if he's that weird?
I think
You know what I'm
so.
trying to
I
say?
think, yeah, I don't know the specifics on it, and I think it would vary. But I think obviously if you have red flags
Yeah.
and I think that's part of owning a.
It's like when you go into a bar and you're intoxicated. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's like I
They
can't
don't
serve you.
have
It's like,
to serve
dog,
you,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna give you a gun right now.
Right. So if you have a federal firearms license, there's a process you have to go to get that, and one of them is training on observing red flags with a gun purchase or an ammunition purchase. And so, yeah, you have the ability to refuse service to anyone for a justifiable reason. You can't.
I feel like you could do
know.
that. I mean, you see signs in restaurants. We have the right to refuse service.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it really makes sense if
Yeah.
it was a gun. So
Yeah.
I guess that was kind of a dumb question, but I just wanted to be sure.
No, it's. I mean, yeah, you can't do it for like a constitutionally. It's like constitutionally protected reasons. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sell you this gun because you're Jewish or because you're
Well,
black
yeah,
or because
yeah,
you're a
yeah,
woman.
yeah.
But for behavioral issues, or like this person doesn't seem like they're firing on all cylinders. Those are good reasons.
That's what I'm saying.
So other reasons why you would be prohibited from purchasing a gun would include if you're an illegal alien. So you have to be a U.S. citizen. And
no
that includes
UFOs.
If you
Can't be green.
can't be green, or if you renounce your citizenship, you're disqualified. I don't know how you
What does
go
that
about.
mean? You
I
say,
don't-
I'm
I
not a
don't know.
citizen anymore.
I'm no longer
Sayonara.
a citizen. I'm not going to pay any taxes. Hey, sign me up.
Yeah,
right?
sign me up.
So yeah, but no, that's the other reason. And then you are prohibited if you are dishonorably discharged from the armed services, and that usually is for cause. You've done something bad, essentially committed a crime. Or it may be a military crime, but you've done something bad. You've been dishonorably discharged. Then you're not entitled to purchase a firearm. And last but not least, and this is fairly new over the past 20 years, you can't have one if you're you're the subject of an order of protection. People call those ex partes.
Oh, interesting.
So, you beat up
I
your
learned
old
about
lady.
those on the
and-
channel.
You did,
recently,
yeah. You beat up your old lady and she goes and gets order of protection, where you're not entitled to purchase a gun or even possess a gun during that time period where
That's pretty smart.
you're under
That's good
that order of
thinking.
protection.
There was
So,
probably
yeah.
some poor situation that took place where like, whoa, we
Well,
might
yeah,
gotta put that
often.
in place.
Yeah, that's there's obviously some hostility going on here because there's an order of protection in
But at
place.
the same time, wait, so if the woman puts an order of protection on the husband, so the husband's obviously the aggressor because she filed
Right, yeah.
Can she go buy a gun to
yeah,
protect herself?
she's fine.
Yeah,
she's not
yeah.
under the order of protection.
It's
So
he's
against
under
him.
the order that she
Whoever's-
filed against him.
Whoever is subject to the
I
order.
get it
yes.
now. Okay, yeah.
And that
yeah.
person-
that's actually a really good idea.
And they have the ability to go to court and dispute it. So if it's fraudulent or he didn't do anything, he can go to court and present evidence. But this is when they're in place. The judge has signed the
Yeah.
order. It's in place. We've found that there's been some element of adult abuse here. And so for the time being, you don't need to have a gun. So that's kind of what that law is.
That's actually that's a good.
It's
That's
a good law. It
That's a
protects
really good
people,
law,
yeah. Yep, that's exactly right.
All right. Do you need a permit?
A permit? No, not in Missouri. You don't need a special permit to buy or possess a gun. Now, you may need a special permit for use out there. Now, you don't in Missouri, but in a lot of states, you need a permit to conceal and carry. But you don't need a permit to buy a firearm.
But you also don't need a permit to conceal and carry in Missouri, right?
Right, you don't in
I
Missouri.
find it so strange that. So in theory, I could go to Bass Pro right now, buy a shotgun with a 15-minute background check, and walk out with the shotgun. That's crazy. I don't need
You
a
can
permit.
do that.
I
You don't.
Well, if I was 21, I could do it with a pistol, and then I can just carry it with me.
You could, yeah, exactly.
America.
So,
I find that
America.
crazy. I find that it's just what I mean. I'm a fan of it, America. But
America. Well, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about open carry and conceal and carry here in a minute. But
do you need a license we kind of talked about this a little bit, but do you need a license to sell it? If I were to buy it from you, would you need a license to sell to me? Or is
Right,
that different
no.
from like Walmart selling it to me?
right. It is different, yeah. So
Okay.
as I said before, you don't need a license to sell a firearm. So if I sell it to another individual, I don't need a license to sell that.
So you
unless,
wouldn't?
I wouldn't. Unless, and the standard is if you repeatedly buy and sell firearms with the principal motive of making a profit. So then you're a
So
store.
if you're a business.
You're a business. Or even if you're an individual who buys and sells routinely, then you've got to go ahead and obtain your federal firearms license. And you have to have buyers complete the ATF form and do the background check. So if you're going to do something, if you're going to flip guns, so to speak.
So if you're making money,
if you're
the
making
government's
money,
going to make money.
if you're,
no matter what.
Right. If you're routinely supplying human beings with firearms, they want you to do background checks.
Yeah.
If you're just selling your
That
grandpa's
makes
gun,
sense.
you don't have to. But if
Yeah.
it's something you're doing repeatedly, then yeah, you've got to do the background check.
I tried to list, this was like 5 years ago, an airsoft gun on Facebook Marketplace.
They
and
don't
they
like
wouldn't
that.
let me.
No, they don't like
Where
that.
would you even like list a gun for sale online?
I think, I don't know if Craigslist allows you to do it or not, but they have gun publications, and now they have
It's probably
online.
like a gun specific.
Yeah, they do, and they have online gun sites.
Yeah, but the
so-
online gun sites, I read somewhere online. I read this a while ago, and I only read a short couple articles. But I thought, from my understanding, if you bought it online, you had to ship it to an authorized dealer.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I've seen that before. Or the guy in my office that he had to go pick it up at a pawn shop.
Yeah,
You got to pick a place where they can make sure that you're the person that's actually picking it up. So you're the guy that's receiving it. You don't just mail it to anybody. So anybody
and then
can
someone
get it,
could just package the. So what? So I guess there's. I wonder if there's like an eBay for guns where it doesn't go through that process, but online is probably you might have to.
Yeah, I mean, I would think if it's a business and that's what you're doing, you've got to
Mm-hmm.
go through the background check process.
Yeah.
And you'd want to if you're a legitimate business. I don't want to be shipping a handgun and to some apartment somewhere and
Well,
not
yeah.
know who's going to get
And
it.
then you're
So
responsible.
Some little
Yeah,
kid
yeah,
gets
yeah.
it or something. So you'd want to make
Exactly.
sure
Yeah.
it gets into the proper person's hands.
Yeah. Because I've never seen like a gun for sale on eBay or Facebook Marketplace.
I think that's prohibited.
I guess you would just have to know the guy.
Yeah.
I guess you would just have to know. Anyway, do you have to register firearms in Missouri?
And not in Missouri. There's no central registry for firearms. So there's
Place to be for gun lovers.
There would be a lot to register, and some states require new gun ownership to be registered, but not in Missouri. We don't have that.
Well, good for us.
There you go.
What is the difference between open carry and concealing carry?
All right. So you've got open carry, which is exactly what it sounds like. A cop carry, like you got your gun right on your hip here for everybody to see. It's out in the open.
Open
So
carry.
that's your open carry. And in Missouri, that's legal. It's legal to open carry anywhere where it's not prohibited, which is kind of a bizarre way of putting it. So the law says, yeah, you can open carry. However, it gives businesses and certain government entities the right to prohibit it. And some cities will prohibit in the whole city. They'll say you can't open carry in our city. And usually you see this with government buildings, schools, polling places, churches, and private businesses. You just post on your door, you can't open carry in here. And then you can't. It's prohibited to open carry. The other side of that is your concealed carry, where the gun is, inside. It's concealed. It's in your belt line, or people strap things to their legs or whatever. And in Missouri, since January 1st of 2017, anybody 19 years or older can, and you're not otherwise prohibited from having a firearm, right? You can conceal carry without a permit. So it's called constitutional carry. That the Constitution gives me the right to possess this firearm. I don't need a permit to do it, as long as I'm not prohibited for one of those other reasons, like you're a convicted felon or whatever, that you can, if you're 19 or older, you can basically conceal and carry without a permit. Other states require that CCW is what they call it, or a conceal and carry permit that authorizes you to do that. And Missouri used to, prior to 2017. You've got to go and fill out an application with the sheriff. And then you got to take a safety course, and you have to pass a background check. Then you have to do an actual firing course.
Which you did.
I did it. Your mom did it. We went together, and we took the course, and then we shot the guns and did that. She outshot me, actually. She's a better
the paper.
I
Don't
do
you?
down in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, she outshot me. And what I realized when we went to this, I just took, the only gun I had at the time was a 40. And everybody else was shooting 22s. So you hear this little pink, 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 and then I'm like, bang, bang. And everybody's stopping. They're looking down at me, and I'm like, what? And they're like, that gun, what is it? Is it a bazooka? I'm like, it's just a 40.
Jeez.
Wasn't that big of a deal. It's the only gun I had. But everybody
never
else is
even-
shooting 22. So
I don't think I've ever heard it's 22 is pretty quiet. I don't
It's pretty
think
quiet. It's
I've
just
never heard of 22.
a little pea shooter, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess people were like, well, we have to shoot like, I don't know how many, 180 rounds or something like that. It's a lot cheaper to shoot 22 ammunition
true.
than 40. So they were saving a lot of money. They were the smart ones there.
Yeah.
She says, who's this guy down there? The bang! You know, it's like, oh, it's just me.
That's your Smith & Wesson, right?
Yeah.
The one at the house.
I'm
'Cause
trying to
your
remember.
Glock is a 9, and that would be at the office. So you
Yeah,
probably
okay.
took your Smith & Wesson.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
That's the 40.
So yeah, it was loud. I felt a little bit self-conscious, but it's like, well, I've only got another.
Well, no, your Smith & Wesson's a 9mm. I think your Glock's a 40.
Well, maybe that's what it is.
I think
So-
you took your Glock,
Okay,
because we
okay.
shoot the Smith & Wesson, and that's a 9mm.
That's right. Yeah. So
That's right.
And yeah. So you know, I'm like, well, there's only 176 more left. So don't worry about me. But,
Yeah.
I made a scene.
Is it that much
I
louder
usually
than the
do.
9?
It's quite a bit louder.
I
Well,
don't-
no, not a whole lot louder than the 9.
I don't know if I've ever shot a 40.
But a 22 is
I think
just
I have at one point.
is not loud at all.
I shot a ton of guns with Marty, but it was all indoors with headphones, so it all sounded the
Right,
exact
right.
same.
Yep,
Everything
yep,
was the same.
yep.
I had a question. So what was my last question? I asked if you needed a conceal and carry permit. For the conceal and carry, do you need a permit for open carry? Who can open carry?
No, anybody you can open carry.
So it's the same.
Anywhere
the
where
same
it's not
thing.
prohibited. In Missouri, yeah. And
So
in some
conceal and open
states,
carry are the same rules.
So in Missouri, they are
Well,
not now.
in Missouri,
Some states don't allow you to open carry at all. Other states don't allow you to constitutional carry. You have to have a permit.
Mhm.
You have to have a conceal and carry permit.
Yeah,
And that's why some people are like, well, you don't need a conceal and carry permit in Missouri anymore. And that's true. You don't. But if you're going to want to go to another state that requires it, then you go ahead and get your conceal and carry permit in the state you live in, like Missouri. And so that if I go to another state that requires it, I can still conceal and carry. Because if they require a
that makes
permit,
sense.
and you're like, well, in my state, I don't need a permit. I can constitutional carry. They're like, well, not here. You're going to jail.
Yeah.
So
well, that you answered my next question was if there was any point in getting a conceal and carry, but there is.
There is,
because
yeah.
If you want to move around,
right. And I think it's 16 states have the constitutional carry. So more states have the permit requirement than don't. So if you're going to want to travel around,
it's probably worth getting.
Yeah,
one.
it is. You can go in almost any state if you have that permit
Mhm.
and conceal and carry. Some of them don't allow it at all, but it's only a couple. So
All right. Well, I've got one more question.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you about automatic weapons and if it's legal to own it, but I think we should probably go to break.
all right.
And I'll have you answer that question when we come back.
Okay.
All right, we are back from the break, and I have one more question about automatic weapons. Is it legal to own an automatic weapon?
Well, it can be, but it's not obviously like the other weapons. We're talking about the handguns are usually semi-automatic.
Yeah.
But just to get a gun that you pull the trigger and it comes out like a water hose, being an automatic weapon, you have to have a more involved FBI background check. And then you have to pay a federal firearms tax, which can be pretty hefty.
You don't pay that anyway?
No, this is a special tax on top of. I mean, you got to pay sales tax.
Sales
No,
tax.
this is an additional federal firearms tax on automatic weapons. So it's specific to that. And
so
most of your
if you buy a gun, there's no firearm tax.
No.
It's just sales
well,
tax.
I mean, I don't. There may be a small one, but this is the bigger one.
Okay.
That's
A specific
unique
for
unique to automatic weapons.
Mhm.
And automatic weapons are super expensive anyway. I mean, you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on a designed automatic weapon.
Jeez.
And now you can buy kits, of course, to convert semi-automatic weapons to automatic. Those are illegal in some states, legal in others. But
what about Missouri?
and then in Missouri, I don't know.
It's kind of an obscure thing.
the,
Who do you know or have represent someone with a frickin'? I guess there's probably someone.
And that's part of, I think there's a little bit of special rules and hoops you got to jump through because I don't know anybody that has an automatic weapon, but I do know, I did look at one point in time, you can outfit them in a way that makes them illegal. Even if you've got the license to have one and you have an automatic weapon, you can put, if you attach a grenade launcher to it, there's combinations of things that render it, there's no legitimate purpose for having an automatic weapon with a grenade launcher and a bayonet on the front. What are you doing? You're not hunting with that, right? So anyway, so there are ways that you can make an outfit an automatic weapon to make it illegal. But as a general rule, most people don't have automatic weapons, but there is a process you can go through to be able to buy one if that's what you want to do.
Mhm.
So that's exactly right. So that is pretty much the episode. Do you have any other questions?
No, I pretty much ran through them. If I had a question, I was pretty much had to ask you before I forgot it. So I think I got them all out of my system.
Well, that's good. And the moral of the story, of course, is to check the laws in your local area to make sure about your ability to purchase a firearm, to possess it, and to use it. And especially if you are going into a different city that you're unfamiliar with or a different state, you can go from being perfectly legal to unlawfully using that weapon that you have in a hurry. And most weapons crimes are not misdemeanors. Most of the time they're felonies. So
Not
you
a
don't
mistake you wanna make.
You do not want to make that mistake.
No.
So everybody out there in Lawyer Up land, I want to thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share me on social media. We've got merch at Boss Industries. Industries.co. The link is in the description below. I appreciate you watching today. We've had special guest Joshua Roberts. Again, my name is Joshua Roberts, and you've been watching A Lawyer Up.
Was that on purpose?
What'd
You
I
called
do?
me Joshua Roberts.
No?
I'm leaving that in. I'm leaving that. I'll bleep what you said out.
Okay.
I'm leaving that in.
Send lawyers, guns, and money